Everyone's obsessing over Vecna Season 5 and what's going to happen to their favorite characters in Stranger Things. All the while, Stranger Things has been producing its own masterclass of horror right before your eyes. I'm Hal Hefner, your personal professor of nerd horror, and today at Nerd Horror University, we're going to show you 7 horror lessons that Stranger Things has been showing you that you definitely missed. So stick around to the end, and please hit like and subscribe so we can bring you more Nerd Horror University. So before we dive into what we think these horror lessons are for Stranger Things, let's discuss something nobody is talking about. Because everyone seems to think Stranger Things is a modern day version of the Goonies. But that's wrong. Many have thought this show was about monsters and portals, Amblin-style Spielberg-like horror. Wrong. Think again. Stranger Things is secretly one of the best modern examples of cosmic horror we've ever seen. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's because many people don't even know what cosmic horror is and categorize anything non-slasher, ghost, zombie, or monster as science fiction horror. Again, this is wrong. Because cosmic horror is real and everywhere. Cosmic horror is not jump scares. It's existential dread. Cosmic horror is all about the fear of the unknowable and the uncaring universe around us. If we look at like Lovecraft 101, the fear is that we are powerless, not that we're hunted. And Stranger Things has way more in common with the work of Lovecraft and Stephen King's It than it does with any other retro property. So let's dive into these lessons. Lesson 1. The Hawkins time loop. Trauma isn't a plot device, it's the loop. The same characters relive variations of fear over and over. Will's disappearance, Eleven's isolation, Joyce's desperation, and so on and so forth. The reference here that we can point to are the recurring themes in Stephen King's work. It's a classic horror technique used in psychological horror like The Shining. Additionally, this is also a common theme used to demonstrate cosmic horror, a returning threat like Pennywise reappearing every 27 years in It. It's a loop of undefinable, interdimensional terror. Lesson 2. The Upside Down is a Jungian shadow. The Upside Down isn't just a place. It's a representation of repressed trauma, fear, and the subconscious darkness of every character. It's a dark version of our own world. Existential dread at its finest. Our reference here is Carl Jung's theory of the shadow self. Hawkins is the conscious world. The upside down is the darkness we hide. It's a cosmic horror reflection of interdimensional terror that underscores our insignificance. Lesson 3. Vecna's evolution equals body horror maturity. Season 4 introduces true body horror. Twisted limbs, levitations, deaths that feel personal. It's an evolution in cosmic horror that began in Season 1 when the door to the Upside Down swung open. Our reference here is that Vecna is our David Cronenberg's Stranger Things moment. Cronenberg used horror so well in his films like Videodrome, Scanners, and The Brood that all seem to influence Stranger Things in various ways. Through body horror. Lesson 4. Quarantine equals horror control. Season 5 opens with a militarized Hawkins. Containment equals fear, loss of agency. We all lived through COVID, and boy did it suck. But horror has a long legacy of quarantines and control and all of these weird tropes that show up in many references. One in particular is Romero's The Crazies, and another is Carpenter's The Thing, as well as many zombie films out there. But the key thing that they all share is when the threat becomes internal, paranoia rules, and then you start to see people's true colors. These films all represent anxieties about fear, panic, and the loss of social order, and question humanity's reaction to an unknown, infectious threat. Again, that cosmic horror like existential question. Lesson 5, Monsters as Metaphors. All of the monsters in Stranger Things are a metaphor. The Demogorgon equals the fear of the unknown. The Mind Flayer is the fear of loss, of individuality to the hive mind. Vecna is unresolved grief and trauma. These aren't villains, they're personified fears. And our reference here is one that's been around since the dawn of humanity. It's our own folklore, because folklore has always been a metaphor. If you look at ghosts, they're metaphors for the lingering influence of the past, including unresolved issues, trauma, and memory. And then there's another example, one of my personal favorites, werewolves. They represent the unchained bestial desires and repressed animalistic behaviors of a civilized society. Lesson 6, the horror shift. From Season 1's mysterious danger to Season 5's visceral horror, the series has shifted its tone through the existential threat of its monsters. The Demogorgon is now just a minion for Vecna, the new big bad threat. The tonal shift mimics horror genre evolution. From Jaws-style suspense to full-on Hereditary-style trauma horror. If we also look at cosmic horror, we can look at Ridley Scott's Alien, which evolved from a monster-centric first film to a more action-packed military-style sequel to a series on FX, focusing on synthetic humans and combining creature and body horror with psychological and corporate horror. Lesson 7, and this is a big one. Hawkins can't be saved, and that's the point. It's the final girl trope inverted. The town isn't meant to be saved. It's the setting of psychological descent, not survival. In essence, it's a character all into itself, and it's doomed from the very beginning. And references for this are plenty. Sometimes you just know there's no saving the situation. This is horror as tragedy done so well in the films of John Carpenter over the years. Hawkins is done for. All right, so there you have it. 7 major lessons that together produce a masterclass in horror that future generations of horror writers, directors, and creators will no doubt study, just like the Duffer Brothers did in order to create Stranger Things. Because Stranger Things isn't just nostalgia-fueled sci-fi, it's Gen Z and Gen X-centric cosmic horror. And more importantly, textbook horror theory in disguise. So thanks for listening. I'm Hal Hefner, your personal professor of nerd horror, and this is another episode of Nerd Horror University. And please like and subscribe if you like these nerdy breakdowns. And if you see any other additional nerdy horror lessons, drop them in the comments. Thanks for listening.
Horror.